I mean, we may do papers on it, Marco. Maybe we're going to do papers. I don't even know if you need them. They're not going to be fighting each other. They've had it. They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. You know, they fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes. Then it's easier to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language.
You have to use strong language. Every once in a while you have to use a certain word.
I think we have to join the others.
It's from Sky News. Mark Rutte, the NATO chief, who is your friend, he called you daddy earlier. Do you regard your NATO allies as kind of children?
No, he likes me. I think he likes me. If he doesn't, I'll let you know. I'll come back and I'll hit him hard, okay? No? He did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy.
Do you regard your NATO allies, though, as kind of like children, and they're obviously listening to you and they're spending more, and you're obviously appreciative of that, but do you hope that actually they're going to be able to defend themselves, defend Europe on their own without...
I think they need help a little bit at the beginning.
Thank you. Deborah Haynes from Sky News. Hello. The language that you have used when talking to Donald Trump has been notable because of its flattery. Today you called him daddy. You sent a text message to him that was gushing with praise. Is this the way that you feel you have to act when doing business with the US president, through flattery and praise? Isn't it a bit demeaning, and doesn't it make you look weak?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a bit of a question of taste, but I think he's a good friend. And when he is doing stuff which is forcing us to, for example, when it comes to making more investments, would you ever think that this would be the result of this summit if he would not have been elected president? Do you really think that the 7 or 8 countries who said, yeah, somewhere in the 2030s we might meet the 2%, we've now all decided in the last 4 or 5 months to get to 2%? So doesn't he deserve some praise? And when it comes to Iran, the fact that he took this decisive action, very targeted, to make sure that Iran would not be able to get his hands on a nuclear capability, I think he deserves all the praise.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about President Trump and Pete Hegseth going off on CNN and the mainstream liberal media for trying to discredit what, in my opinion, was a flawless military strike against Iran, in which the president is claiming that it completely destroyed Iran's nuclear capabilities. Now, I'm going to tell you guys how we will know for sure in the future, but the president is saying that he is confident that that's what happened. What I do know is that it seems like the mainstream liberal media and the detractors can't seem to get their story straight in regards to what exactly happened, because they're telling us two things at the same time. They try to tell us that, well, Iran, they moved it. They moved all of their enriched uranium, right? So therefore, the strike was a failure, okay? Is that, okay? And then now it's, well, the strikes were ineffective because it didn't actually destroy the facilities, right? It only caused moderate damage, right? So, again, which one is it? Because it seems like they're basically trying to figure out what's the right narrative to push to discredit the Trump administration. I mean, I've had spam in the comment section. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen it. Some trolls say, oh, Trump's strike was a failure. The Defense Intelligence Agency and CNN and the New York Times said it was a failure, right? This is what they said, okay? Again, based off a Defense Intelligence report that is preliminary, right? Low confidence, okay? However, CNN and other mainstream liberal media outlets have decided to peddle this report because they know that their low IQ viewership, they're not going to be able to understand the nuances of the fact that this is a preliminary finding and that certain intelligence agencies will have different assessments of exactly what happened, and that more time is needed to determine exactly the extent of the damage that was done. Take a look.
That it was produced by the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the Pentagon's intelligence arm. And it is worth noting that it is a very early assessment. The strikes were only a matter of days ago, and the intelligence community is still gathering intelligence. They are still working to come up with a full, comprehensive picture of what exactly happened here. But based on a battle damage assessment that was carried out by U.S. Central Command, essentially looking at the images and looking at what was actually damaged, the Defense Intelligence Agency has assessed that the core components components of Iran's nuclear program are largely intact, and that Iran's nuclear program has essentially only been set back by months. Now, we presented this information to the White House for comment, and White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, she did acknowledge the existence of this assessment, but she said in a statement that the administration disagrees with it. She said, quote, "This alleged assessment is flat out wrong and was classified as top secret, but was still leaked to CNN by an anonymous low-level loser in the intelligence community. The leaking of this alleged assessment is a clear attempt to demean President Trump and discredit the brave fighter pilots who conducted a perfectly executed mission to obliterate Iran's nuclear program. Everyone knows what happens when you drop 14 30,000-pound bombs perfectly on their targets, total obliteration." Now, it is worth noting here that there has been dissent, I should say, within the intelligence community, within the defense community, about just how much of an impact these massive bunker buster bombs would actually have on Iran's nuclear facilities. It was far from certain, given that these bombs had never been tested in an actual combat scenario, whether they would actually penetrate those very, very deep underground tunnels that lie underneath these nuclear facilities. And what we are told is that as of now, this Defense Intelligence Agency assessment, it does conclude at this point, again, it is still very early, that those underground facilities, including the centrifuges, including the highly enriched uranium that everyone has been talking so much about, those are largely intact. Now, of course, this does stand at odds with what President Donald Trump and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth have been saying in recent days about the impact of these U.S. military strikes. Of course, President Trump said it was totally obliterated, and Secretary Hegseth did as well. And he actually also provided CNN with a statement. And he said that, quote, "Based on everything we have seen, and I've seen it all, our bombing campaign obliterated Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons. Our massive bombs hit exactly the right spot at each target and worked perfectly. The impact of those bombs is buried under a mountain of rubble in Iran. So anyone who says the bombs were not devastating is just trying to undermine the president and the successful mission." Now, our sources did emphasize here that there was severe damage that was done largely to the above-ground structures at these nuclear sites. And so there was damage done, of course, by these massive bombs. But the core components of the nuclear program, we are told, they are largely intact, and it only set the program back by a matter of months.
Article from the New York Times with some crucial U.S. intel that is just devastating for Donald Trump. According to them, a day after Donald Trump declared that Iran's nuclear program had been completely and totally obliterated by American bunker-busting bombs and a barrage of missiles, the actual state of the program seemed far more murky, with senior officials conceding that they did not know the fate of Iran's stockpile of near-bomb-grade uranium.
Received a leaked intel report that suggests we only set Iran back by 4 months. Now, Donald Trump and the White House have responded, saying that while the leaked report is real, the news reporting it is fake, whatever that means. But this explains why Donald Trump was so upset this morning. Not only did his ceasefire not work, but his midnight hammer operation didn't work either. And now Donald Trump walks away a complete loser and embarrassing the United States. He tried negotiating a new deal and couldn't get it done. He tried stopping Netanyahu from attacking Iran. He couldn't get it done. He tried destroying their nuclear capabilities. He failed at doing that. He failed at securing a ceasefire deal that wasn't broken within the first few minutes. And now the United States looks weak on the world stage, all thanks to Donald Trump. Well done.
The latest intelligence coming out right now is that the United States operation on the Iranian nuclear facilities was largely a failure. A centrifuge at one of the facilities remains intact. It did damage some of these nuclear facilities, but the nuclear facilities can be made operational in a few months potentially. And also it's being reported as well that Iran's enriched uranium stockpile was largely moved before U.S. strikes, according to a new New York Times report. Also, the New York Times is confirming an exclusive by CNN that the nuclear sites were damaged, but they were not destroyed, rendering the mission by and large a failure, in stark contradiction to what Donald Trump was repeatedly posting over and over again.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. Now, what I find to be fascinating about all this, right, is that you have some people who are believing CNN and mainstream liberal media. These are the same people who dismiss the lab leak theory, right? They dismiss that as, oh, that's crackpot Alex Jones, right-wing conspiracy, right? This is what they said. Until U.S. intelligence, after, a few years, came out, some intelligence report with medium confidence, right? Some with low confidence, but some with medium confidence have said, yeah, it's just more likely that the lab leak theory is more accurate than the bat theory, right? That one probably is closer to reality. Now, the reason why we can't really know for certain, is because China lacks transparency, right? So without actually investigating the Wuhan lab, we don't know for sure. But again, I think most people now kind of accept that the lab leak theory is likely the explanation, right? So again, just keep in mind, these are the same people who dismissed that, again, as a conspiracy, okay? Initially, okay? So I don't understand why anybody would believe these people when it comes to this report, because the more information that comes out, the more information suggests that, President Trump might have been right, okay, in regards to his assessment. You have Iran's foreign ministry admitting that the nuclear site's badly damaged, okay, by U.S. strikes, which, again, they didn't elaborate on the full extent of the damage, okay? But you also have the Israel Atomic Energy Commission. They have also agreed that the U.S. assessment that the attacks achieved their goals, right? So if that is the case, especially with Israel's assessment, because let's be real, Israel wants a ground invasion, right? They want full-blown regime change, okay? And if you're one of these people, okay, who believes that Israel is using the United States in order to get their war with Iran, which, a lot of people seem to believe, they have no incentive to come out and to say that the attacks were successful. If anything, they would have an incentive to come out and say, nah, we didn't hit our target. Therefore, we got to go back in, right? So that's what I'm saying. The way that you'll know if this is true or not is that if in a few months, the Israelis or the United States, if they come out and start screaming about Iran having nukes again, then you'll know that it wasn't successful. That's how we'll know for sure, right? But as of right now, the party involved that really wants us to invade Iran, right, to go forward with regime change, especially right now while they're weak, they're saying, well, it kind of looks like we did our job, because the program has been set back for years, right? This is what they're saying. They're saying there was so much destruction that it's going to be years before Iran can recover, okay? This is what is being said. So I'm just saying, it seems like, just based off the preliminary reports, that it is likely that the president is correct, okay? And this is why President Trump, along with Pete Hegseth, they took turns tag teaming the liberal media, going off on CNN over basically leaking this report to the public. Again, a low confidence initial assessment. Take a look.
Them all today.
Okay. So, Mr. President, you talked about expecting some on-the-ground assessments at Fordo and other sites.
Now
is that Israeli and U.S.?
It's been obliterated, Kelly. It's been obliterated.
What is your message then, sir, to the intelligence community when they present reports? You're not disputing the DIA report. You're just...
They presented a report that wasn't finished. We're talking about something that took place 3 days ago.
I understand that.
The report was done 2 days ago. Wait a minute.
Yes.
They didn't see it. All they can do is take a guess. Now, if you take a look at the pictures, if you take a look how it's all blackened, the fire and brimstone is all underground because it's granite and it's all underground. You don't show it. But even there, with all of that being said, the whole area for 75 yards around the hole where it hit is black with fire. The group that's run by this gentleman, in fact, you may want to talk about it for a second because we're going to issue a report. And I think it's not even a very exciting report at this point. It's been obliterated, totally obliterated. And they did a report, but it was like, if you look at the dates, it's just a few days after it happened.
Sir.
So they didn't see it. They said it may be very severe.
Understood.
Go ahead.
Do you have a message for the intelligence community, though, in terms of unvarnished information getting to you, that it's not...
I don't really have a message. I would say issue the report when you know what happened. I wouldn't say that it could be severe or maybe not. They use the word severe. It could be severe or maybe it's not.
And
so people like you picked up and said, oh, it's not severe. No, the report was not a complete report. Yeah, the message was probably wait till you know the answer before you...
And sir, did you not have a public component to your Zelensky meeting for a tactical reason with President Putin?
Let him answer this.
Hello, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah. There's a reason the president calls out fake news for what it is. These pilots, these refuelers, these fighters, these air defenders, the skill and the courage it took to go into enemy territory flying 36 hours on behalf of the American people and the world to take out a nuclear program is beyond what anyone in this audience can fathom. And then the instinct of CNN, the instinct of the New York Times is to try to find a way to spin it for their own political reasons to try to hurt President Trump or our country. They don't care what the troops think. They don't care what the world thinks. They want to spin it to try to make him look bad based on a leak. Of course, we've all seen plenty of leakers. And what do leakers do? They have agendas. And what do? Do they share the whole information or just the part that they want to introduce? And when they introduce that preliminary report that's deemed to be a low assessment, you know what a low assessment means? Low confidence in the data in that report. And why is there low confidence? Because all of the evidence of what was just bombed by 12 30,000-pound bombs is buried under a mountain, devastated and obliterated. So if you want to make an assessment of what happened at Fordo, you better get a big shovel and go really deep, because Iran's nuclear program is obliterated. And somebody somewhere is trying to leak something to say, oh, with low confidence, we think maybe it's moderate. Those that dropped the bombs precisely in the right place know exactly what happened when that exploded. And you know who else knows? Iran. That's why they came to the table right away, because their nuclear capabilities have been set back beyond what they thought were possible because of the courage of a commander-in-chief who led our troops, despite what the fake news wants to say.
But you're not disputing the report said what it said, even though it was initial.
The report said what it said, and it was fine. It was severe, they think, but they had no idea. They shouldn't have issued a report until they did. But we've gotten the information. I think Pete said it better than you can say it. And, you know, you should be proud, you, especially you, should be proud of those pilots, and you shouldn't be trying to demean them.
No,
those pilots flew at great risk, a big chance that they'd never come back home and see their husbands or their wives. Let me just tell you, you and NBC, fake news, which is one of the worst, and CNN, New York Times, are all bad. They're sick. There's something wrong with them. But you know what? You should be praising those people instead of trying to find some. By getting me, by trying to go and get me, you're hurting those people. They were devastated. You know, I got a call from Missouri, great state, that I won 3 times by a lot. And I got a call that the pilots and the people on the plane were devastated because they were trying to minimize the attack. And they all said it was hit. But we don't think it was really maybe hit that badly. And they were devastated. They put their lives on the line, and then they have, and I'm not referring to you, but real scum come out and write reports that are as negative as they could possibly be. It should be the opposite. You should make them heroes and heroines. You should make them really people that they were so devastated when they heard this news. And you know what they said? One of them, I spoke to one of them, said, "Sir, we hit the site. It was perfect. It was dead on." Because they don't understand fake news, because they have a normal life, except they have to fly very big, very fast planes. But it's a shame. You should be making them heroes. All right, in the back. Go ahead, back, White. Yeah.
You guys know what I find to be so hilarious about this, right? This response from President Trump and Pete Hegseth is because they're basically smearing CNN in kind of the same way that CNN is smearing them, right? We know that CNN ran this leaked report because they wanted to smear the president, right? It was a smear campaign, okay? Now, they try to present it as journalism, right? No. This is a smear campaign, okay? We know why they're doing this, okay? They're trying to smear the president. They're trying to undermine him, okay? So in order to flip this back on CNN, they're basically saying, well, CNN is trying to smear the pilots, right? They're attacking the pilots who said that this mission was successful. Okay, they went over there, they did their job, it was a perfect strike, and that, you know, it was successful. So CNN coming out and basically suggesting otherwise is a smear against the pilots, which, again, you know, it's just one of those things where it's like, I know why they're saying it like that is because, again, it puts CNN on the defense and it triggers the hell out of them and it puts them in a very awkward situation, which turns out showed up when CNN had to respond to the accusations from President Trump and Pete Hegseth. You can tell they were very uncomfortable with the counter smear from President Trump and Pete Hegseth. Take a look.
For a couple of reasons. Number one, because Kelly O'Donnell did a great job trying to get information out of the president in the face of sort of some personal attacks on her and the rest of us. But much more importantly, this was not anything to do with the U.S. military or their abilities or their, patriotism, anything at all. This was a report on an initial assessment by one intelligence agency, full stop. And as you said, the president didn't like it, but it has nothing to do with the men and women of the U.S. military. And that was a tell. The fact that he keeps harping on that and is trying to manipulate the conversation to make it like the reporters who are reporting on something that part of the U.S. government is trying to figure out has to do with not liking the military, which is just ridiculous on its face.
Yeah, so clearly, as you can see, CNN, they don't like the reverse smear, right? They don't like that. They don't like when the smear campaign is then reversed back on them and they have to play defense, right? It's just funny how that works because, again, we know why they ran with this report. Ultimately today, if it was top secret, CNN should not have reported it, okay? It's top secret, and they reported it because, again, they thought that, okay, well, we could smear the president by coming out and saying that the strike wasn't successful, okay? Which, again, a lot of liberal propagandists have used this to say that Trump failed, right? That, oh, he did this for nothing. This was all for nothing. He accomplished nothing with this. And it's like, no. He accomplished what they said they were going to do, which is to take away Iran's ability to enrich uranium, okay, to potentially build a nuclear weapon. Now, again, we're going to see if that's true. We're going to see because, again, if they start kicking and screaming and crying about Iran getting nukes in a few months, then it's gonna be really awkward, right? It's going to be really weird because people are going to say, wait, I thought you took out their ability to do so. What happened? Okay, so we'll see because, again, if they start kicking and screaming and crying about this again, about Iran and nukes, then something's off, right? Either they're lying, okay, or the mission was not accomplished, okay? I'm just saying that, if this nuke thing goes away, at least for a few years, then, hey, you can say that it was successful. The way that I would look at this is that bare minimum, right, Iran's nuclear program has been set back a few months, right? I would look at that as the bare minimum, okay, of what happened or what was accomplished. And likely there was significant damage, okay, and that their program was significantly set back and the mission overall was a success. Again, total obliteration, I don't know, okay? I mean, time will tell, and we'll go from there. But to come out and to basically try to say that this was unsuccessful, which, again, is what some people are doing, right? They're running with this idea that it was unsuccessful, is, I think, premature and, again, designed to smear the president and try to make it look like this operation was a waste of time and a waste of money. And I just don't believe that, right? So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.